Let's go. We see that hype outside. Right from the house.
Hey guys, Golden here, and welcome back to the Epic Games versus Apple Day 8 recap video. Today marks the halfway point of this trial, and the judge finally made it clear who she is siding with in this lawsuit as of now. I'll be explaining what this means for Fortnite Mobile players in just a little bit, and whether we're actually going to be getting our game back onto the App Store or not. So make sure you guys all go watch until the very end to make sure you guys get all the news. But either way, just want to quickly say, tomorrow I'm actually getting the COVID vaccine first dose. So unfortunately, I will not actually be uploading a recap video tomorrow, but I will still be posting tomorrow's recap video just a day late. So just want to let you guys know ahead of time. Unfortunately, it won't be coming out tomorrow, so sorry guys. But either way, you guys obviously know I don't want to waste you guys' time, so let's head right on into. So first off, the trial actually started off with Epic's Athey, who actually ended yesterday's court date. So Athey actually headed back onto the stand to continue her point on this lawsuit. Now it started off with Apple, and they actually explained how Epic actually never mentioned Steam as a streaming service, which was allowed on the App Store. Now, if you guys didn't know, it's basically this thing called like Stream Link, which is actually allowed on the App Store. And Apple's point was we still do allow freedom to certain developers. So Apple's then actually explaining how they do actually allow remote play options from PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, such as Steam Link, and they've been doing this for a while. However, it doesn't really mean much to us, so I'll kind of fast forward a little bit because you guys probably don't care about what they're talking about right now. So then after discussing, Steam Link and stuff like that for a while, the Apple lawyer then actually came off the stand, and then the Epic lawyer came up to the stand. Now, they started off by discussing how an app called Game Cloud was actually rejected from the App Store more than 100 times, and now it can only offer certain games on its app now that it is actually on the App Store. So Epic was trying to build it to the point that obviously Apple is super restrictive with their apps, and overall just rejected this app many times and caused this app developers to constantly make changes and constantly do all this different stuff just to get its game back onto the App Store, which kind of sucks. Now Epic then actually did a defense against the Steam claim and basically explained how Steam streaming app is actually only for helping people install games on desktops, not iOS devices. And the point here is basically this Steam Link app actually requires a PC, which kind of ruins the whole point of allowing like third-party streaming software, because obviously most people don't have a PC to play these games. Now, Apple then went into some of their claims and actually claimed though Android devices have a much higher piracy rate, meaning more apps have stolen content on Android. So basically like the Play Store has a lot more like pirated apps, and they basically claimed it's because Android has a much more free app store. Now, Apple is basically trying to explain how Android is completely different from the App Store and they have a lot more freedom. And the point is they were trying to explain how if the App Store had the same amount of freedom as Android, which is obviously what Epic wants, it would create a really scuffed experience for the users. But in my opinion, I feel like Apple could still somewhat review stuff, like still kind of be like, all right, this is pirated, we're gonna remove it from the App Store, or do stuff like that. However, I think they just have to remove some of these restrictions, some of these reasons to remove the app from the App Store. Like for example, adding your own payment system. That should not get your app removed, in my opinion at least. But again, I'm not really a lawyer, I'm not really a judge, so who really cares about my opinion? But then Epic's witness, Athey, then stepped down from the stand, and Apple's first expert witness in this entire trial stood up, and that is Richard Shamalancy. Okay, so Richard started off by claiming that iOS is actually a part of a hardware/software bundle rather than a market Apple can monopolize. And apparently, he's trying to claim that you cannot monopolize the App Store. And obviously, developers kind of disagree with this because they obviously have a lot of anti-competitive traits on the App Store. For example, not allowing third-party direct payment systems, not allowing third-party app stores, stuff like that are completely shut down from Apple devices. Now, Apple then actually continued to explain how Apple actually deserves the 30% commission for the software they made, and claims the only reason developers want third-party payment processors is to try to bypass this commission that, according to Apple, the developers owe them. And Apple also claimed that they cannot name a single successful business that allows users to bypass commissions. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it kind of sounds like Apple's being a little bit greedier, but at the same time, I totally get it. They created these phones, they created this software, and overall, they created this entire ecosystem. So I understand why they want a commission. However, to be fair, 30% is a little excessive. Now, Apple then actually compared their rules to American Express, which also does have quote-unquote anti-steering rules as well. Which you guys didn't know from the previous video, it basically doesn't allow developers, allow people to encourage people to go to external sources to get cheaper fees. So for example, like a link on like the V-Bucks page, be like, all right, tap this if you want to get V-Bucks for $2 cheaper, something like that. Basically, the point is you're not allowed to do that on Apple devices, and you're also not allowed to do that with American Express cards. And Apple also actually explained how American Express won a big court case around these allegations. So the judge actually finally jumped in and explained how when you're going to a store, you can choose between Visa / MasterCard / American Express. So there are options. However, on the App Store and on iOS devices, these options don't exist. So clearly, once again, the judge is siding with Epic and is just continuing to bash Apple and explain how there is no way that you could compare this system to American Express, because obviously they're two completely different things. You have multiple options when you go to a cash register and stuff like that. However, on the App Store, you have to use Apple's payment system, and there's no option, and that's basically the judge's point. So overall, a really good point from the judge. And then the judge actually asks, what's so bad about allowing customers to have a choice? And then Apple explains how if customers had a choice, that would mean the App Store cannot collect its commission, which cuts Apple's revenue stream. So basically, once again, Apple is making it clear the reason they have this 30% commission is so that way they can make money back from this ecosystem they created, which overall, I feel like they shouldn't be taking 30% because that's a little bit excessive. Now, to make Apple look even worse, Apple actually then claimed if they take a massive loss, they would consider simply not allowing third-party apps, like for example, web apps like GeForce Now. So basically, Apple's saying if they just took like a massive loss in revenue or something like that, they would completely disable third-party apps, which just doesn't make sense. And Epic personally explained how the idea that a smartphone platform would decide that not allowing third-party apps was a good idea was crazy. Now, just to bring a little comedy in this situation, Epic then actually brought up the naked banana situation from earlier this week, with an Epic lawyer actually saying, I was thinking about that banana today. You could say this lawsuit's bananas. But anyways, I'm not going to waste half this video talking about bananas again. But basically, then Epic brought up another really good point against Apple. And they actually claimed that because Apple makes money off their hardware, it reduces Apple's incentive to treat developers well, because obviously it doesn't need them as much as console makers who sell at a loss. So if you guys didn't know, previously we heard from Lori Wright, someone at Microsoft, basically explaining how apparently Microsoft actually sells their Xboxes at a loss. So they lose money from selling that Xbox, and they actually spend more money making the Xbox than they make back from the Xbox. However, they made it clear that they actually make all their money back from their commissions on their App Store, and they're basically explaining how Apple actually makes money from selling their phones and iPads and stuff like that. However, consoles don't, so it gives them even more reason to not care about the developers nearly as much as a console maker obviously would. However, out of nowhere, the judge actually comes in and makes the biggest claim of the day. And overall, guys, this proves what side the judge is currently on in this lawsuit. And then out of nowhere, she says, I have the ABA's antitrust law book up here on the stand, and I've heard quite a big deal of evidence throughout the trial regarding how big Apple is and how anti-competitive it is. And then the judge actually continued and actually explained how it says that essential facilities claims arise when a plaintiff alleges a duty to deal because a facility is so superior that competitions cannot succeed without accessing it. So basically, the judge just essentially said that Apple is a monopoly. At that point, that's as crystal clear as you can get from a judge claiming that Apple is a monopoly. They explained how there's no competition. If you guys didn't understand that last quote, basically she was explaining how developers are forced to use Apple's tools and use Apple's rules, and they must actually use their payment processing systems in order to simply be on the App Store and in order to obviously have this platform on Apple software, which overall shows monopolistic behaviors, like I said. So overall, guys, it's safe to say halfway into this lawsuit, Epic is definitely winning. There's not a doubt. I mean, the judge basically has made it clear that she is siding with Epic, at least in terms of Apple having unfair restrictions on their App Store. So overall, you guys can take what you want, but in my opinion, as of now, we still have half of the trial remaining. We still have Tim Cook coming out, but still, in my opinion, I think Epic's gonna win. But again, we're only halfway through. Who really knows? Something could quickly change, but I'm just saying this is really good news for Fortnite Mobile players, because if you guys didn't know, this basically means that if Epic wins, Fortnite Mobile has a 99% chance of returning to the App Store, because if Epic wins, it's going to be a lot for your App Store, and Fortnite should be able to now have their app back on the App Store. But anyways, the lawyer that actually explained how Steve Jobs said he wanted the developers to make as much money as Apple makes off of the App Store. However, not even the top brands on the App Store make more money from the App Store than Apple, and Apple's witness actually confirmed this. So clearly, Apple makes more of the money on the App Store than the developers obviously do, which is kind of unfair. I mean, at that point, guys, the developers are literally the people who run the App Store. They make all of the apps for the App Store, and Apple makes more money than them. That just really doesn't seem fair. But anyways, the lawyer then actually asked if Apple has ever reduced his commission over time, and Apple explains they did do it for small developers. If you guys didn't know, like a little bit ago, they reduced it to 15% for developers making under $1 million per year, and the judge actually asks if Hit has seen any evidence that Apple has considered this change before Epic started this lawsuit, and he says he doesn't know. So again, the judge going against Apple, asking if this might have just been because Epic obviously started this lawsuit. I mean, clearly, guys, they actually implemented that 15% rule after Epic started this lawsuit. So the point that the judge is trying to make is they might have actually done this in order to try to look better in front of the court, in order to obviously be like, hey, look, we do like a 50% for small developers, so clearly we're not a monopoly. However, the judge clearly saw this through and asked him that, and he doesn't know. Maybe they did talk about it earlier. However, we really have no proof, so who really knows? But yeah, guys, that was pretty much everything that went down in day 8 of the Epic versus Apple trial. Guys, Epic is doing so good in this trial. They're demolishing Apple, which is kind of crazy to see, and thinking that like the owner of Fortnite is potentially about to be like the biggest company in the world, which is kind of crazy to see. However, overall, guys, I'm definitely excited to see what happens in the rest of this trial. We're again halfway through, and I'm excited to see what ends up happening. So make sure you guys all go drop a like if you guys are also excited to see what happens with this lawsuit. And also, if you guys want to see every single day me summarizing everything you guys need to know about the Epic Games versus Apple trial, go down below and subscribe with those post notifications on. But either way, guys, this has been golden. Do with this information as you will, and I will see you the day after tomorrow, because again, guys, wish me luck. I'm getting my COVID vaccine tomorrow. I'm hyped because I want to go hang out with the boys again. All right, but anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys later.